The Male Experience.
Male Experience. Male Experience. Male Experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 13, coming off of the heels of a, mind-blowing, pretty non-shocking performance from Bobby King Green. Somebody had to pay, and it was me. Watching all the tapes, it's like, this guy's changed. You know what? He hasn't changed. You know what? Cody Saftic on the line with me, not in studio today. I deserve this, right, Cody?
Yeah, I guess you just deserve it. And so to speak, we actually talked about the fight a few times, being like, hey, that's the problem with Bobby Green is that he always fights to his opponent's level and he always makes it dicey decisions. And the Trinaldo fight and the Drakkar Klose fight, I thought he won both of them. Unfortunately, yeah, he's got poor ring IQ. He fights way closer than he needs to be at times. And he always sets himself up for these close fights. So Bobby Green losing what was another close fight. No, not shocking. On a personal level, I thought he won the fight. I thought he won the first round and the second round. But in the first round, he gets a slow start, right? He wins the middle portion of it. And then he hears the 10-second clapper. And for whatever reason, just decides to just run face first into a couple of good shots from Moises. And I felt right then that those shots sealed it for Moises. But whatever, I digress. We go to the second round. In the second round, that's Bobby Green's best round. And 100% he wins the second round. But the important thing to note is on the 10-second clapper, he tried to throw like a stupid flying knee. And got countered and got busted big right hand. Like what are you doing, man? Why in rounds that you're probably winning with 10 seconds left would you do something idiotic and cause yourself? And plus, judges always just remember the last 10 seconds. Anyways, classic Bobby Green. That's what he does. Overall, you look at all the winning picks compared to losing picks. It was a really good week. Unfortunately, because you had to parlay these guys together, Bobby Green ended up on parlays. And even though I was 100% sure that the fight would go the distance, I thought he'd get his hand raised. So I hit that Bobby Green by decision prop. Unfortunately, went against him. So what can you do? Just got to rebuild, right?
100%. And, Bryce Mitchell, I did say on the show last week, I wonder, I didn't see too much of Andre Fili defending single legs. Sure enough, couldn't defend Bryce Mitchell's single legs. So I'm pretty gun shy coming into the week this week, and I feel like this should help. So let's do our punishment, do this for the people, and get into the action.
My man, Paul. I should have came down today. God damn. Yeah, well, what a day is this.
UFC Vegas 13 main event has Glover Teixeira taking on Thiago Santos. Santos minus 240 favorite. Glover Teixeira plus 200. Where are you at on this one, Cody?
Yeah, legit. Glover's been such a little money machine for us, right? They always kind of overlooking him. They're always giving us these really nice spots, offering you plus money against guys that, him versus Carl Roberson. He's even money. What? Him versus a guy that's that green and Roberson, the savvy vet Glover. Love it. Him versus Ion Kudalaba, minus 125. What? You're going to give us even money against a guy that's got absolutely no ring IQ. Speaking of guys with no ring IQ, against a savvy vet Glover Teixeira. Love it. Him versus Nikita Krylov, even money again. Love it. And then they bless us with the Anthony Smith line of plus 175.
Which we capitalized
I love
on,
betting on Glover. Yeah, Glover's always going to give you an honest effort. You know that at this stage, 41 years old, he's very hittable. People will say that he's a little bit chinny. We've seen rocked. He got rocked by Carl Roberson, in fact, by some knees against the cage or some elbows against the cage. But, realistically, he hasn't been finished since a fifth-round knockout to Alexander Gustafsson, which was 3 years ago. And, of course, a devastating loss to Anthony Johnson, who's one of the most devastating power punchers in the history of power punching. Uh-huh. So on one hand, it's like, is durability an issue for Glover? No, not really. Especially, against the divisional's best guys. Yeah, absolutely. Against big power punchers, it could be. Thiago Santos is very much that. But yeah, I don't know that I would say he's chinny and Thiago's just got to hit him one time. He's got to do the same thing to everybody else. He's got to overcome a slow start, get this into the second, third round, start grinding on Thiago, complete those takedowns. And if he can take Thiago Santos down and end up on top, he's going to give Thiago Santos a bunch of problems. One thing about Thiago is that I think a lot of what's baked into this line is that how good he theoretically looked against John Jones. Here's a guy that just is a career middleweight, comes up to 205, challenges the greatest of all time, allegedly, fights the guy tooth and nail for 5 rounds, and then walks away with a split decision loss. but blows out both of his knees in the process. Let's keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, oh, yeah, he looks so good against John Jones. Maybe he's turned the corner. Maybe he's legit. It's almost an outlier fight for John Jones. And I say that because Jones versus Anthony Smith, right? He looked terrible. John Jones looked terrible. But he landed 125 significant strikes and also landed 3 takedowns. What about Jones versus Dominic Reyes? Man, Jones looked terrible in that fight. They still landed 104 significant strikes and 2 takedowns. See, he attempted 8 takedowns against Dominic Reyes. He attempted 9 takedowns against Anthony Smith. Sorry, I think it's reverse. 8 against Anthony Smith, 9 against Dominic Reyes. He did not attempt any takedowns against Thiago Santos. He opted not to try to take him down. He opted not to try to land strikes with him, which is why he lands only 59, stays to the outside, and it was just all risk management. So as good as Thiago Santos looked in that fight, he didn't try to take him down. The guys that do try to take Anthony Smith, or try to take down Santos, usually have some good success.
Mm-hmm.
Going all the way back to Eric Anders completes 6 takedowns against this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, Eric Anders done a terribly big 205 himself and certainly can't wrestle. So, I mean, you give the guy over a year-long layoff because of the multiple knee surgeries, and you consider he wasn't a great wrestler to begin with, and you consider he's actually 36 years old, so as much as Glover's 41, like, Santos is not exactly in his prime as well. It's a pretty big line for me to have faith that he's just going to walk in and knock out Glover Teixeira. So Glover's been really good to me. Definitely got my respect. Somebody that I definitely look at. This kind of falls into like a dog or pass category just because I am a little bit worried about that big first, second round power from Thiago Santos. But again, we know that he's got a cardio issue. We know that he's got a wrestling defense issue. And I just think there's a good path of victory there for Glover if Glover can complete these takedowns and get him to the ground. So I'm thinking it's a dog or pass. That plus money on Glover is definitely looking at me, definitely very tempting. But tentatively so far, I do see the risk. I wouldn't pick Thiago Santos outright, though.
I'm glad that you said that. As I said, I was a little bit gun-shy coming into it. And I think, yeah, the only side that you can even really bet in this fight is Glover Teixeira. Thiago Santos is a guy who has, like, real brutal kicks. But as you said, coming off of all of those knee injuries in the John Jones fights, like, every single CL, whether it's the PCL, ACL, LCL, like, they were all shot in that fight. This is a guy who got a lot of his, great knockouts and stuff using those kicks. Is he going to have the same confidence, power, like 36 years old? All of those things kind of come together. I mean, if this was a straight pick'em, I think I would be going towards Thiago Santos here, but plus 200. I mean, I think Glover has a better than like a 33% chance of winning this fight. So I'm right there with you. Glover Teixeira is the pick, and once we get off the line here, I'll probably end up throwing a little Skrilla on him. Let's go to the co-main event. We got Andrei Arlovski taking on Tanner Boser. Boser, minus 275 favorite. Arlovski can be had for plus 235. I know Boser's finished a bunch of his last few opponents, but I mean, aren't these guys kind of the same fighter? They're heavyweights with decent cardio, good mobility, and they, more of like I think at the elite, I think Tanner Boser will not exactly be a potent finisher or anything like that. We've seen it in his last few fights, but like all of his regional or most of his regional scene coming in, that wasn't really the case. I just think Andre's a little bit long in the tooth. I lean towards Tanner Boser in this spot just being a little bit crisper, or maybe not crisper, but a little bit, a little bit younger, better durability at this point in his career. But 280, I'm not sure if I want to jump on board. What's your take here?
Yeah, it's tough with paying the 280 price tag on Tanner Boser because, prior to the last 2 fights, a lot of people had either written Tanner Boser off or really written off his power altogether. And I fall myself into the second category there. I didn't think that as much as he is a mobile heavyweight, he's got good kicks, his best path to victory is exactly what Andrei Arlovski has been doing the last number of fights. Use that mobility, stay to the outside, and just outpoint the guy. Just throw a little bit more than him. You got good cardio, you got good speed, you got good footwork. Again, he's got the agility. Stay to the outside, kick these guys, and outpoint them. If they land 50 significant strikes, you land 60 or 70. You're just always outpointing them, chip away at them. Andrei Arlovski, again, 41 years old, same thing as Glover Teixeira. He's found his ability to keep a roster spot in the UFC. High ring IQ. I know that's crazy for Andrei Arlovski, but just high ring IQ knows that he's got maybe slight advantages in slight areas, and he needs to keep the fight in those exact areas and just chip away at these guys, chip away. But Tanner Boser, see, the difference is Boser's only 29 years old. So as much as we can say he doesn't really have power, he's looking in incredible shape. And here's a really cool stat I find is that Tanner Boser comes to the UFC, takes on Daniel Speeds. he lands like 95 significant strikes on him. Does exactly the Andre Arlovski game plan. Stay to the outside, chip away this guy, just be faster than him. But he weighs in at 247 for that fight. Good size heavyweight. The Cyril Gagne fight, he's taking on Gagne, who everyone raves about. He gives an okay account of himself, considering he went the distance with him. And he weighs in for that fight at 246 pounds. And then the Felipe Lins fight, the guy shows up in really good-looking shape. Weighs in at 235, right on the button. He's trimmed down. He's lost 12 pounds, and yet he completely ices Felipe Lins. Almost like losing the weight has made him a little quicker, made him a little more agile, but he's in good shape, and he gets the knockout. Pessoa, he comes in at 235, right on the button. He kept that weight loss going. He did not balloon back up. And in the fight's a few months, I think it's like literally 1 month later, but he stays in that shape. I want to see him come on 235 or near 235 against Andre Arlovski. He's in good shape. This guy's power is going to translate. And honestly, he is faster than Arlovski. Arlovski's been using this advantage of being the quicker man, but he literally fights the slowest guys in the division. Felipe Lins, Ben Rothwell, Augusto Sakai, Shamil Abdurakhimov. Like, these guys are moving in sand, right? So like at least against Tanner Boser, like the speed's going to be matched. As far as the punch output goes, well, that's what's going to trick Arlovski. So Arlovski is used to just outpointing these guys on the basis of low punching output. Look at his wins, right? He beats Felipe Lins. He landed 50 significant strikes over 3 rounds. The Augusto Sakai fight, you look at all the numbers, he's just a little bit more than his opponent, a little bit more than his opponent, a little bit more than his opponent. Against Boser, I don't necessarily that's going to be on the table. But the difference is Boser could catch Arlovski, whereas Arlovski, it's MMA and he's a heavyweight, but he's not shown knockouts for a long time in the UFC. Tanner Boser's been knocked out once in his entire career. It was by Tim Hagg 5 years ago, and it was in 6 seconds, so it could happen. I'm just saying since then he's grown a lot, he's improved a lot, he looks to be in good shape. I really do want to see him at the weigh-ins. I do got Tanner Boser in the spot, but I will agree. You don't go from getting even money fights with Boser, underdog money fights with Boser, people wondering if he can finish, to all of a sudden paying this kind of a price tag. But I think it's warranted. Andre Arlovski kind of just clinging onto a roster spot. Somebody that's going to be in the top 15, top 10 comes around, they're going to knock him off that rankings list. Boser seems like that guy. He's almost like the new version of Arlovski, unless he keeps his power punching going, right? His kick game's a little bit better. He's a little bit, he's light on his feet, but I like how he matches up in this spot. I'm almost feeling it's a passing of the torch type moment. We'll see how it plays out. So the official pick's going to be Tanner Boser, and I'm going to take Tanner Boser by decision. I'm not going to bet that. I'm just telling you like how I think it's going to play out in the end. It's Boser by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised by a Boser knockout, seeing how those last 2 ones played out.
Boser by decision pays out about plus 165. So, I mean, Andre's chin is questionable enough that, I don't know if we're getting enough. The books seem pretty wise to it. Honestly, I think the books in general, the last month or so, they seem to kind of shape up their act a bit. At the early part of COVID, we were finding like for instance, Alexander Romanov, we'll talk about a little bit later on. Like he was a pick'em against Marcos Rogerio. We lost that about 5-6 months, or 5-6 weeks ago. Devastating, because now he's minus 335. We'll talk about that fight a little bit later down the card, but yeah, I feel like the last little bit the books have been a little bit sharper. I look up and down this board, and nothing has been really popping off of it for me. But let's move on to the next one. We got Ronnie Barcelos taking on Khalid Taha. Ronnie Barcelos minus 350 favorite. Taha plus 290. I mean, you're a Ronnie Barcelos guy. You've always bigged up him on the show. Is this a spot that he continues his climb up the ranks, or what?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's coming in as a big favorite. So with like most Ronnie Barcelos spots, you do have to take him as a big favorite. And then he comes in, and they're always closer fights than you'd like them to be. But again, he goes out there, he gets the victory. This guy's such a class act. He's got it all, really, considering that he wrestled for the Brazilian national team. I mean, his wrestling's pretty much on point as far as, a fighter coming out of Brazil. He's not going to be one of these D1 American type guys, but my God, his wrestling definitely saves him when he needs it. As far as his BJJ goes, he's a accredited BJJ black belt, super good grappling, good submission game. As far as his cardio goes, yeah, man, pushes the pace. Back in the day, RFA champion, has been 5 rounds. If he's going down around, if he's taking damage, he's just kind of got good ring IQ, knows how to turn the tables on the fight. And he's been perfect so far for us in the UFC. Goes in there, and it's been, I think, he's 4-0. He's 4-0 in the UFC. But again, none of those spots has been like easy cruising, right? Maybe the Chris Gutierrez fight. The Kurt Holoba fight was a little bit harder than I thought. Like Kurt Holoba was landing a lot more strikes, and I'm glad we took him out in the 3rd round. The Carlos Huachin fight, this guy took it on short notice, was not even in our league, and yet he almost lasted 2 rounds. And I don't know, had a couple spots, I guess. That was almost as easy cruising. And the Said Nurmagomedov fight, man, it's a tough fight. Comes down to the 3rd round. Comes to Barcelos' high ring IQ, his ability to get that reactive takedown when he needed it, seals up the round. And that's what I like about this guy. Said Nurmagomedov is a top prospect. Against Khalid Taha, he kind of reminds me in many ways of Said. He's short, he's powerful, and he's going to be tough to take down. But ultimately, Barcelos will take him down. And that's kind of where he has had his problems. His UFC debut against Ned Narimani, he's taken down 6 times. Now, that fight's at featherweight, takes it at short notice. And Taha's 5'5", man. It's not exactly a big guy. So him getting taken down by Ned Narimani is not the end of the world. But keep in mind, Nad did get him down 6 times, and it wasn't like it was super difficult. The fight with Boston Sam is 25 seconds. Knocks out Boston Sam, and nothing you can take away from that. Boston didn't try to take him down. Boston Sam is also winless in the UFC and got cut. The fight with Bruno Silva, again, you know what? Largely, I thought it was his takedown defense that was costing him that fight. He's a better striker than Bruno Silva, but he's giving up on these single legs. Once he does get taken down, Bruno's got a couple of good little spots in there where he's holding him down, having good positional control over him. And then, bam, Taha gets on top, gets a arm triangle choke, and ends up getting overturned to a no contest because he gets tested positive for, USADA red flags him. So now he's been off a year. He's coming in against Raoni. I don't think it's a bad spot for him. I don't think he's going to get taken down. As far as the striking goes, he packs a lot of power and he throws some big heat, but he's not knocking out Raoni. Raoni's technical boxing is a lot sharper than Taha's. He's also got the reach and the length advantage on him. So I can see him being competitive against Taha, but his easiest path to victory is just strike with him long enough to take this guy down. And because he's so smart in there, Raoni probably will strike with him for the first 3.5 minutes of every round, but then he will try to secure late takedowns, make sure he's getting these rounds. So I got Raoni likely by decision. I could see him getting a rear naked choke if he's able to take the back, but I think he's probably just going to go through the motions once he does get the positions, make sure he doesn't give them up. So sign me up for Raoni Barcelos to hopefully score the decision victory here.
We got Brendan Allen taking on Ian Heinisch. Straight pick 'em by the odds. I mean, it wasn't too long ago when we were talking about this fight, and or when we were talking about Ian Heinisch taking on Antonio Carlos Jr., and you made reference to what was it, Heinisch and the guy spent all that time at Rikers. Nobody's taking his back. I believe that was the line way back then. I mean, he got taken down 4 times by Antonio Carlos Jr. in that fight, and he lives to tell the tale. From Brendan Allen, what I see on the feed, he's usually pretty stiff. He struggled against Dawkins to get the takedown, like he didn't. I mean, he was 3-0 for Dawkins in that fight. I mean, I understand that this was opened a little bit wider. That buyer beware. I've been wrong. In terms of the value side of every single, I didn't bet it last time on Dawkins, but I was thinking about it. And then at Brendan Allen's other fights, I've been off on it as well. So I haven't placed anything on it, but I feel like if this fight stays on the feet, that Ian Heinisch probably gets it done. If it goes to the ground, well, he survives against Antonio Carlos Jr. in these spots. Brendan Allen is a submission wizard, but if he doesn't get that submission against a better opponent like Ian Heinisch, I understand why people were betting Ian Heinisch from plus 140 up to the straight pick'em that we have right now. I understand that money, and that's the side I'm on. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it could be a humbling experience for Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen, 24 years old. I think he's a good prospect. I think he's a developing prospect. And he's shockingly 18 pro fights. And I mean, fought at the high level, man. And he was fighting LFA 5-rounders against future UFC veterans like Eric Anders and Anthony Fluffy Hernandez when he was just a kid, man. And this is already going back a few years, right? He's young. He's already in these 5-round wars. He takes damage. Now he makes it to the UFC, and it's like he's still 24. He should still be a highly touted prospect on his way up, and I think he is. But there's just this feel that he's taken a lot of damage by this point in his career already, despite being his young age. And I just think that the reason why that is that he gets these tough spots because these tough guys, he's a little too green for them. He finds a way to win. Goes out there, gets beat up, maybe looks like he's tiring, maybe looks like he's taking a bit of damage, finds a submission, improving, getting better. But it's not like there's been that many outside of the Tom Breeze fight. He usually makes it a little more difficult on himself than you'd like it. With Ian Heinisch, Ian Heinisch's submission defense, his takedown defense, maybe his superior striking, those are all good passive victory for him. When I look at Brendan Allen, let's not even talk about the LFA run. Let's just talk about that Contender Series fight right off the get-go. We'll start from there. But he gets outstruck by Aaron Jeffries in that fight. The Contender Series, it's only 1-round fight. He actually gets outstruck by Jeffries, but he hurts him, he drops him, he takes him down, he submits him. The UFC debut against Kevin Holland, He gets outstruck by Kevin Holland. Mind you, when he takes him down, he looks good, looks pretty good on the ground, very fluid, obviously. But when Kevin Holland gets back up, you see Brandon Allen looking tired. You look at him, he's a little bewildered. Luckily for him, he gets that fight back down to the ground, is able to submit Kevin Holland, for Kevin Holland really kind of gets his rhythm going. But he gets outstruck 2 fights in a row there, falls on the submission. Tom Breeze fight, yeah, it looks really good in there as well. Goes through there, beats him, no problem. And then you go to that Daukaus fight. The Daukaus fight, yeah, I mean, he's getting taken down by Daukaus. He's getting some bad spots where Kyle Daukaus, not Chris, the superior heavyweight brother, but Kyle Daukaus is getting on top of him, making him sweat in some spots. The striking numbers is relatively close. But again, here's the problem with Brendan Allen. He's not only was he getting outstruck in those early spots, but now you get 3 full rounds of him. Largely, he hurt Kyle Daukaus. He was throwing his hands. He was looking to be a striker in that fight. He still, at the end of the day, only landed 41 significant strikes and got stretched by this UFC newcomer who took the fight on short notice. Whereas Ian Heinisch is getting the best guy. Omari Akhmedov is taking him down. Derek Brunson's taking him down. Antonio Carlos Jr. is taking him down. Those guys are high level, man. These guys are top 15 guys in the UFC. They're not debuting fighters taking the fight on a week's notice, not sure if they should be there or not. But beyond that, I mean, according to the Fight Network, and you watch himself, he's landing 50, 60 significant strikes in all these spots. So taking him down is going to be an issue for Brandon Allen. Striking with the open field is going to be the bigger issue. I just don't know that Brandon Allen's strong enough to just go out there and take down Ian Heinisch time and time again. And that kind of seems to be the path there. Omari Akhmedov just exploited the takedown defense. Derek Brunson exploited the takedown defense. See, here's the thing. So Derek Brunson actually, a collegiate wrestler, D3, but also a guy that took down Yoel Romero and has displayed his takedowns at the highest level in the UFC and had lots of success. And then you have Omari Akhmedov, who is a multiple-time Sambo world champion who can take down most men. Those guys are going to be able to get you down. But Heinisch works his way back up, but they take him back down. Brandon Allen might be able to get the takedown. If he doesn't get the second and third and fourth takedown, then he's going to start. You're going to see that bewildered look on him again. You're going to see him start to slow down. You're going to start to see him get a little bit desperate and a little more predictable. And when that happens, Heinisch should be able to take over. So it's a good live betting spot. I think Allen has a fast start. Heinisch takes 2 and 3 and ends up taking him down the stretch. I could see Heinisch finishing inside the distance, but most of his fights outside of that last fight against Jeremy Mearshart have typically gone 3 rounds. So the official pick for me is going to be Heinisch by decision.
Zhang Yan takes on Claudia Gadelha. Zhang Yan minus 135 favorite. Claudia Gadelha can be had for plus 115. Yan hasn't really been tested in terms of her wrestling yet, but here's the problem with Claudia Gadelha. I don't think she can wrestle for 3 rounds. And she's probably, like, in terms of any sort of, like, statistical metric, like, Yan is throwing so much significant strikes in all of her fights. She's doubling her Claudia up by pretty much every single metric in terms of strikes, significant strikes landed per minute, 6.72 to 3.4. I mean, if this goes 3, I wouldn't be shocked to see Claudia Gadelha get an early takedown here. Maybe she exploits her on the ground, finds a finish. But this is women's strawweight. They're usually pretty good at just about everything. I think you can hold on, even if you get taken down early. The problem with Claudia, and we've seen it for years now, ever since, I mean, even the Joanna Jacek fights way back in the day, is that she can go to that wrestling early, but she can't really sustain it. And I feel like that's progressively got worse as we go fight by fight. And honestly, against Angela Hill, her last time out, it was just like she barely even tried to go for the takedown. Based on the amount of volume and the pressure that Yan will deliver and usually does in most of her fights, I think she gets the job done. I see that market's kind of moving. It's 135 on our board, but I'm seeing minus 150 in a lot of other places, so people are kind of wise to that right now. Pick is Yan for me, likely by decision. What about you?
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of tempted by that Claudia Gadelha dog money. I mean, first of all, how often do you ever see Claudia Gadelha dog money? They always try to just sell you as some, she could have been the world champion. Oh, she was the uncrowned 115 queen. Oh, she looks so good. Oh, all these different things. And she's always, a pretty sizable favorite in a lot of these spots, Paul. But then what you see is just like, oh, man, she's not wrestling because she doesn't want to tire herself out. Oh, even though she's not wrestling, she still gets tired in the 3rd round. Oh, Angela Hill, no punching power, not knocking on Claudia Gadelha, and didn't, but dropped her in the 3rd round, man, like stung her. And she's getting stung in these spots. Carlos Esparza knocked her down and stung her. Mind you, they're not knocking her out. But writing's certainly on the wall that she can't get into a gunfight, so she needs to get the takedowns. Taking the takedowns requires a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and just I don't know if she's able to exert it. I'm not even going to say at this stage of her career because she's 31 years old. Damage shouldn't be a massive issue. And I mean, she's full-time in Vegas now. Like, you see these videos of her, she always looks in good shape. But then the performance that you see in the octagon doesn't really materialize. Now, she's fought all the best fighters times two, twice over, you know. She's won some, she's lost some. At least she's in it. With Jan, this figures to at least be theoretically an easier matchup for her, maybe since the Ronda Marcos fight. And then with Jan, see, this is my one issue, right? You look at all 5 fights that she's had in the UFC. Kaylin Curran, ooh. Vivian Pereira.
That's a layup.
No, I know. And Vivian Pereira, I don't think is with the company anymore. Siri Kondo, come on. Angela Hill, right? Good win. And then the Karolina Kovacevic fight where I think she retired Kovacevic. She was like, I'm done with this. But what I found concerning is that she got taken down by Kaylin Curran and Angela Hill, both non-wrestlers. And all 5 people on that list of UFC opponents she's had are all 5 of them are non-wrestlers. But she did manage to get taken down twice by Kaylin Curran and once by Angela Hill. So that's a little bit concerning considering now she's actually taking down someone who's not a wrestler, more of a grappler, but certainly is very strong and can take you down. And if Claudia Gadelha goes out there and doesn't listen, you should know by this point, Jan's going to throw over 100 significant strikes. She's going to hit you lots. Don't stay in the open field with her. You need to pressure her. You need to get her against the cage. You need to get her to the ground. We're in the Apex. It's a smaller cage. There's less ring to cut off.
That's a good
You
point.
need to get a hold of her and get her to the ground. And then classic Claudia, no doubt about it, she's going to lose the 3rd round. But can she use the takedowns to win the first 2? Definitely possible. So when I look at that plus money, it's like, yeah, you know what? I wouldn't feel comfortable betting Jan as the favorite, which he is here. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting Jan on any of my safe parlays by no means. This is a close fight. But I think with Claudia, it's like, you know what? Gee, she has won her last 2 fights. So let's pump the brakes on writing her off completely right away. And then beyond that, it's like, oh, well, her losses, Nina Ansarov, Jessica Andrade, Joanna Jędrzejczyk times 2. Like, oh, so you mean all the best people in the division. Okay. She lost those ones. Well, how did she look against Nina? She won the early portion, but Nina's so classy, she caught her in the late rounds and won the fight. Well, how did she look against Jessica Andrade? Dude, she won the first round, but Jessica Andrade, man, she just kept coming forward, won those later rounds. Like, Claudia never loses the early rounds. It's the later rounds. And can she get the first 2 and force this to decision and win a decision against Jan? I think it's possible. So This is a dog or pass spot for me, I think.
That's fair. All right. Let's move on. We got Giga Chikadze taking on Jamie Simmons. Chikadze minus 485 favorite. Jamie Simmons plus 375. Or plus 385. My bad. How the fuck did this fight end up getting booked? It really doesn't make any sort of sense whatsoever. Like, is Chikadze, like, he's just completely against upward mobility in terms of his UFC career? Like, this, it's not even like this was a canceled fight. It's just like he wanted to fight again. They were willing to pay him. And I watched a little bit of tape on Simmons. Obviously, he tries to get the fight to the ground. They don't have a reach for Simmons, but he's, 5'5"? He's taking on Chikadze, who's 6 feet tall. I don't know if those numbers are 100% accurate. There's no reach on it, but I imagine it's pretty significant. I didn't see very much in terms of, like, the grappling being elite, and it was against low-level competition in a lot of spots. So you're going to have a borderline world-class level kickboxer taking on a guy with, like, I mean, it's 74-inch for Chikadze. What could a 5'5" guy's reach really realistically be? Like 68, 69 kind of thing. Nice. What is going on? What is going on in this fight, Cody? Like, why is Chikadze taking, like, do you not want to fight, like, a better level of competition? This didn't make any sense when I saw this one come across the board. And obviously, he's nearly a minus 500 favorite. The guy he seems to be happy to, like, scoop up, like, pretty low-level fights, at least on his early contract. Maybe that's a sage, like, a smart decision to make early on in your career when you're getting like 12-12 from the UFC. I don't know what he's getting. So nobody in the comment section be like, oh, he's actually getting 20-20. Didn't you look up the last, the payroll disclosure or whatever? I didn't, no. But yeah, I don't I don't like the fact that Giga Chikadze is a minus 485 favorite, but he should have a lot of big advantages in this spot, right?
Yeah, so if you want to talk about contracts, so he actually fights Brandon Davis on a 10-10, right? Which the UFC doesn't even do anymore, and wins it on a split decision. And then he takes Jamal Amers, tough fight, on a 12-12 because he won. You know how it goes up. You get the bump to the $2,000 bump. Beats Jamal Amers on a 12-12. Beat Urban Rivera on a 14-14. Beat Omar Morales on a 16-16, $32,000 to win the fight.
On up.
And that's his 4-fight contract's done. So he would have renegotiated one with the UFC. And for them to give him Jamie Simmons, I don't think they paid up for him. His 4 fights in the UFC were also all 4 of them by decision, and he arguably lost the Brandon Davis fight and the Jamal Amers fight, which were both split decisions. So I think the UFC would have been like, you know what? How about we give you 18-18 or 20-20? He would have said, cool. As a result, he's not going to get a top 15, top 10 guy, and let him continue. Also, you consider he's one of these guys this is his 4th fight in 2020. The UFC, these guys that have been super active for them, they've been giving them some easy low ball matchups. Kevin Holland, they've been matching Kevin Holland so soft. So soft.
That poor guy.
Bobby Green just
week,
lost. Charlie Ontiveros.
He had no business being in that spot. Like, I don't know what they're going to do with that guy because he was, he almost I haven't heard of like the follow up. Was he okay after the fact? Like, because he looked like he busted his damn spine.
The fact that they didn't mention at all, they obviously just dragged him out the back. You'll never hear from that. You'll never hear from fake Josh Koscheck ever again.
They put that guy in an impossible spot. Like he had no chance of winning that fight. Like he was completely outmatched, short notice, up a weight class, had there was really no path to victory for him there.
Right. But when you consider that, why he's on so much momentum. Why did they give him a softball matchup? Now, Bobby Green actually shit the bed, but theoretically, he's won 3 fights this year, and yet they're giving him an opponent that odds makers have him as a 3-1 favorite over. Why? Where's his upwards motion? Where are these guys? So I feel like with Giga, it's like, hey, man, a lot of people thought you were going to lose the Brandon Davis fight. A lot of people thought Cody Saftic definitely thought you were going to lose the Jamal Amers fight, which Jamal Amers actually blew for himself. And then Urban Rivera and then Omar Morales, like, okay, now we're going, but whatever. I think it's a softball matchup for him, and for the first time, it's like you have to get behind Giga Chikadze because normally I'm really weary. We talk about all the bums he fought on the regional scene before he came to the UFC. We talk about Brandon Davis taking him down 5 times. Jamal Amers took him down when he wanted to, just for whatever reason didn't want to. Urban Rivera, it's a short notice replacement. He was supposed to fight Mike Davis. Mike Davis is going to kill him. I thought Mike Davis was going to kill him, but he gets Urban Rivera, a guy that's 5'6". And a bantamweight, fighting up a weight class. Mm-hmm. Well, he's getting these favorable matchups given him, but now you can't deny. You can't deny after the Omar Morales fight, because I had Omar Morales. You guys will remember, because only a month ago that Omar Morales
looked good in that
fight.
fight.
A lot of parlays. Yeah, Giga looked good for a round and a half, maybe 2 rounds, and then he gassed out. But he was throwing heat, man. And he almost knocked out Omar Morales in the 3rd round. He almost knocked him out at the end of the 2nd round. It was Morales' fault for not throwing anything, but Morales knew Giga's a natural counterpuncher, and he didn't want to throw anything. And that's where I go back to Giga's won those 4 fights in the UFC all by decision. His glory kickboxing career has been pretty much all decision. He is known as a decision machine. I think he's going to go out there and ice Jamie Simmons and put him away. And Giga inside the distance is minus 135, certainly better than the 350 that you're looking at right now. A Giga by knockout hasn't been released yet. Giga inside the distance mean Giga by knockout. Giga not submitting him, right? So you might as well just hit that knockout prop, even if it's slightly better. When you look at Jamie Simmons, right, he doesn't look 5'5", but that's because he has an afro. So he probably looks closer to 5'9" in there. But if you were to buzz his head, yeah, he's definitely a shorter guy. He's super stiff, man. He likes to come in and out on straight, singular lines. I think Giga should absolutely chop him away. He likes to stand up at a southpaw stance. He leaves his body entirely open, especially on the left side. I think the Giga kick could work. I think that all that good body work should be able to play in factor. He also has 2 losses in his career. 1 guillotine choke, 1st round, no big deal. It's only 2 years ago, but no big deal because the guillotine's not in play, I don't think, for Giga. Let's say. Giga could, who knows. But the second one is that LFA 70 fight. You rewatch that, he gets clipped by a knee 13 seconds into the fight and knocks him out. When he fights middling guys on the Wisconsin regional scene, yeah, he looks all right. Looks okay. Goes out there, gets the victory. But any modicum of striking or resilience, he seems to fall over. So Omar Morales, good on him for taking that kind of beating for 3 rounds. But Jamie Simmons ain't going to do that. So I got Giga, and I think Giga inside the distance. Give him his first win in the UFC by finish. If you're the UFC, here's another theory, right? Fuck, this guy's actually pretty good. He's an exciting striker. His takedown defense. In the Omar Morales fight, Omar did try to take him down a few times. Did in fact take him once. Giga's takedown defense, you can tell he's working on it a lot. So if you're the UFC, geez, this guy's kind of exciting. He's got a flashy, fun striking style. His takedown defense, he's working on it. He's on a 4-fight winning streak in the UFC. He's a former glory kickboxer, and he's very popular in Georgia and certain parts of Europe because of his kickboxing pedigree and who he is. Let's give him something to put on the highlight reel. Like let's let him put somebody away, and then we can sell him in a fight with a top contender, or sell him in a fun striking battle against a top contender. But he needs to go out there and ice somebody for the highlight reel. We can't sell a guy on a 4-fight winning streak all by decision, couple splits, taking splits over Brandon Davis and Jamal Ammer's not looking particularly good. Let's put a little bit behind him. So that could be what they're doing here. And I honestly just don't see otherwise how Jamie Simmons is in this spot. And then the last thing I want to throw on there is Jamie Simmons fought a month ago, right? So this fight is not a short notice spot. Giga didn't have a previous opponent lined up. But Giga mentioned after his last fight, he just wanted to keep fighting. Just give me a fight, give me a fight. So I don't know if they signed Jamie Simmons to the UFC and they were like, here's your first fight. Giga Chikadze seems like a tough fight. Or if it's very much, Giga, stay ready, we'll find you somebody. And, oh, here we go. We did toss this guy in there. I don't know. But, yeah, you know me. If anybody who's listening to the show knows I'm never super high on Giga, not because of his style, just because I think his opponents are usually going to take him down, and I think he's going to look like a fish out of water on the ground. But I'll give him his props. He looked better in the grappling in his last fight against Omar Morales. He's certainly getting more comfortable in there. So just like anybody who fights 4 times in a year, he's starting to find his footing. He's starting to get comfortable, and that's a dangerous thing. Giga Chikadze inside the distance, -130.
We got Bevon Lewis taking on Trevin Giles. Straight pick 'em across the board. Battle of guys that we, frankly, usually fade on this program. Do you have any sort of lean on this one in this spot, Cody?
You know what? I hardly do. Because like you're saying, these are two guys that you fade, especially in those third rounds. Like, they're not going to be hanging around here by the third. Bevon Lewis, man, has just been a massive letdown for me personally. When I consider, what exactly does he do well? It's like, oh, well, man, he's out of Jackson Winklejohn. Like, he can wrestle. It's like, can he wrestle? Because he actually failed to take down Alton Cunningham on the Contender Series. He failed to take down Darren Stewart. He failed to take down Daquan Townsend. This guy's not completing takedowns over anybody. It's like, yeah, but what about the Uriah Hall fight? He won the first 2 rounds over Hall. That's his UFC debut. Talk about a bad UFC debut, man. Uriah Hall, and he was up 2 rounds. It's like, yeah, but on what? Like, he just holds him up against the cage. He doesn't take Uriah Hall down. His striking is not great. He's not putting up big numbers. In fact, Bevon Lewis is a guy that right across the board, even in the Daquan Townsend fight, he's just not putting up big striking numbers. He's not taking you down. So how exactly is he winning fights? Why is he a touted prospect? I don't know. The Daquan fight really illustrated that it's like, if you're not taking him down, that's an issue. But to land 36 significant strikes, mostly holding up against the cage, it's just a really bad look. Getting exposed by Darren Stewart, whatever. He was exposing a couple guys, and he's not bad. He's got some chops to him. It wasn't the end of the world, but I'm not seeing the growth out of Bevon. Now, only 29, he's still young, right? He's still making improvements. But, where are the improvements? I'm not seeing them. Giles is actually the younger fighter. His problem is, similar to Bevon Lewis. He's up 2 rounds in the Zach Cummings fight, and then he gasses out and gets choked out in the third, gets dropped in the 3rd round by Zach Cummings, and then proceeds to get caught in the guillotine choke. In the Jeremy Mearshart fight, he gasses a little earlier, but again, good start out of Trevin Giles, and then he's tired. The James Krause fight, Krause took it on 12 hours notice or something, and is up a weight class at middleweight, and still he has to grind out a split decision over James Krause. That's 9 months ago. He's a full-time police officer, Trevin Giles. Maybe that's what's hindering his improvement. These guys are both prospects, still 28, 29 years old. They got skills. They've just not shown you any type of growth or upgrading or going to that next level. And I always say week in and week out, it's nice when these guys lose because it goes back to the drawing board and they make those improvements. And again, this is 2 guys that have illustrated that they don't. Trevin Giles has lost these spots. When he comes back, no improvement. Still fading out in the 3rd round. Skills haven't really improved. He is who he is. That's fine. Bevon Lewis, same thing. When he's losing these fights, is he coming back? Is he making these improvements? I'm not so sure. So if you want to look at this fight in two ways, right? I'm going to go with Pavon Lewis just based on the tape. I think Pavon Lewis is a little bit bigger. I think Pavon Lewis is more of the natural middleweight, and I think that he's going to win the fight exactly how he tried to win against Uriah Hall. He's just going to try to lean on Trevin Giles, get him up against the cage, lean on, not take him down.
Which should work to his favor if Trevin Giles gasses, but
yeah,
Pavon Lewis will probably gas
up.
doing the same thing. I think, though, the one thing that really can't be overstated is Trevin Giles was supposed to take on Kevin Holland in his last time out, fainted. Apparently his heart stopped beating. And that was, 2 months ago? It was like early August?
Yeah, 3 months ago.
I mean, I'm not putting money on a guy who had to go to a cardiologist, doesn't exactly know the reason. I don't know. Maybe there has been a disclosed reason for all of that, but I'm not getting involved in that. So I guess it sounds like Pavon Lewis or bust in this spot.
Yeah, Pavon Lewis, and then even though Zach Cummings and Mearshart caught him late, those guys are submission threats. Pavon hasn't proven to be that, so I think I'm going to take Pavon Lewis by decision.
We got Alexander Romanov taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima, minus 335. Alexander Romanov, plus 275. Rogerio. I mean, we already broke down this fight before. What is it? Knockout? It's basically knockout or bust for Rogerio because Romanov is going to pressure forward. He can eat some shots. Once he gets you up against the cage, gets you down. He's a big man who has good cardio, and he's going to basically just whittle you down, break you down until you're finished. When they gave this to us the first time, it was basically a straight pick 'em. We lost our sneak attack on it. Now they know, he's blown through the other competition, the easier competition that he's gotten. This is obviously a step up from what he's done, but he's looked pretty super solid every step of the way. Marcos Rogerio, I think, has a decent guillotine. Maybe that's an out, but I think for Rogerio, it's like knockout or bust. Pick is Alexander Romanov. I imagine Romanov will probably be on your parlays that you release on Saturday at CJ Saftic.
Yeah, listen, Romanov was right at the top when he was even money because the way he matches up against De Lima's, he's just going to crush him, and it was great value. And now he's a 3-1 favorite, but he's still going to be at the top of the parlay because the way he matches up against Rogerio De Lima, he should crush him. Mm-hmm. If you take too much time against De Lima and you stand in front of him and you allow him, see, some guys go in there like, okay, you know what? I'm going to feel the distance. I'm going to feel the range. I'm going to let him step forward, throw a couple strikes. I'm going to duck under. That's a style of trying to get a guy to the ground. There's other guys that I am going to just bull rush him and get him to the ground. That's what you got to do against De Lima. If you stand in front of him and wait for him to throw those punches, at least you're running to the risk that maybe he lands those shots. We all know with Rogerio De Lima, even though he's not exactly, I don't think high-level athlete, even though he's not a real heavyweight, the guy's best days were at 205. It's like he is now. He's 265 pounds now, and he throws them hams, buddy. If they hit you, you're going to go down. We got that at this point. But you know what? I mean, he's an older fighter at this point. He's 35 years old. I don't think he takes the training super seriously, which is why he's ballooned from 205 to 265. Mm-hmm. And he's slow. He's plodding. You see if you stick around a few rounds with him, you got him. The Stefan Struve fight, it's interesting. He dropped Stefan Struve like 15 seconds into the first round and then proceeds to just lie on top of him for the entire first round. Really good first round for Rogerio De Lima. He's gassed by doing nothing, just sitting in guard. Just simply sitting in guard is enough to completely exhaust this man. And in the second round, he gets submitted. His follow-up fight against Spencer Soley, he knocked him out so fast, you didn't really get that gauge. Could he knock out Romanov? Hey, man, heavyweights. And this guy's big, and he's got knockout power for sure. Romanov's not going to give him that chance. Romanov's just going to go out there. He's going to close the distance. He's going to get a hold of him. He's going to whip him to the ground. Against Roque Martinez, all we could base him on was what he had done in the regional scene. And what he had done in the regional scene was impressive. Moldovan guy, former sumo champion, former amateur wrestling champion, 29 years old, very athletic for a big man. And were we talking about guys that are 265? Because, yeah, he's 261. He's a very large individual, 6'2". Now, in heavyweights, there's not a whole lot of wrestlers. There's not a whole lot of good wrestlers. Like, is this guy even a good wrestler, or was he looking good on, like, a cheeky regional scene? They give him Roque, big guy, but not a good wrestler. It's how he approached the situation. He just took him down and had fun with them. He's like King Kong punching him on the ground. He's like sitting on the guy. It was like he just, was just styling on him at one point in there. And then finally submits him. Almost submitted him at the end of the first round. Took him out at the end of the second round. Nice performance from Romanov. Now you got to think, geez, people are hyping him up. Oh, I like Romanov now. I like Romanov now. I like Romanov. It's like little Cody, little Paul upset because we almost got even money on him in this spot. But also, he was our little hidden gem.
Robbed.
And now you're getting him as a He's a 3.5 to 1 favorite in his very
in
next
the same fight. Like what? Like a
I know,
month and a half
And he will
later.
be.
That's how these markets change, right? It's like you kind of have
Yeah.
you have to catch these guys before they make it to like, the big boy shows here. A lot of the big time value ends up being on guys from like Russia regional scene. It's like the books aren't putting in the time to watch the tape on those guys.
Yeah, and in his case, it's like, geez, he looks good. So whereas now you got some hype and you got a little clout and the UFC likes you and they book you 2 months later, it's like most guys, I'd be very content. Oh, okay, let's sit on the sidelines, roll the next one, and kill it. Like this guy's actually actively been competing in like BJJ competitions, wrestling competitions. Like he's a grinder to get better, and he looks good, man. I think he rolls right through DeLima, barring heavyweights be heavyweights, but I know what I'm getting myself into. And he's gonna be top. He's gonna be top parlay material. Literally, this is gonna sound like I'm getting cocky, and I hate being cocky. The only thing that's preventing me from literally going absolutely all in on him is, even though it was even money last time, I think it should be higher than. I see it sitting at 335, not going more. It should be 500. It should be 500 come fight time. There's no reason Romanov shouldn't be a 5-1 favorite over Marcos Rogerio de Lima come fight time, with money rolling in. But it seems like money are rolling in on these other spots, like Giga, but not rolling in on Romanov. So
I suppose the idea is that heavyweights be heavyweights, and that's what people are scared about, laying that action. We haven't seen him take a massive punch from like an actual dangerous heavyweight.
You know what? That's fair. Every guy he's fought has been a heavyweight. They all got the heavyweight puncher's chance. But you're right. DeLima's, ATT trained. He's been in some big spots. He's a multiple time UFC veteran by this point. He could land one. Unfortunately,
maybe a good live
he's one of
opportunity
very few
here.
people. Paul, keep this in mind. He's one of very few people on the planet, okay, who have punched Stefan Struve square in the face and not knocked him out.
Fair.
So,
fair point.
Yeah, he dropped him, but that doesn't scream monstrous power punching, right? So give me Romanov. Romanov inside the distance, ground and pound, probably somewhere in the second.
All right, we got, moving on down, we got Darren Elkins taking on Eduardo Garagorri. Darren Elkins, loser of his last 4 fights, is a minus 230 favorite. Garagorri plus 190. Does Elkins get back on track here? I mean, the guy just... Besides the Ricardo Lamas fight, the guy just doesn't get finished. He is cast iron. Probably one of the most durable guys we've ever seen inside of the octagon. That being said, he is 36 years old at this point in his career. Obviously slowing down, but nothing I have really seen from Garagorri on tape has me all that concerned. Elkins has good cardio. I get Elkins being the favorite. I just don't know if I want to bet it. What's your take here?
I have to assume that this is the UFC saying to Darren Elkins, we want to keep you on the roster. We do not want to cut Darren Elkins because he's in so many fun fights. He's done us a lot of solids. He's got a pretty good name, and he's the kind of guy that Bellator would just be rubbing their hands over again. At 36 years old, he's definitely damaged goods. It's clearly written across his chest. It's like, is he slowing down? Yeah. Is he the guy he used to be? Nah. Is his reflex the same? Nah. But he's going to give you these fun fights. None more. I mean, it's on full display against Nate Landwehr, where it's like, my God, it's a fight of the year candidate. Certainly fight of the night. Both guys land over 100 significant strikes to go tit for tat. Elkins has some good spots in that fight, mainly with his wrestling. But it's like, Landwehr is going to throw back, and Landwehr stands his ground. He's got really good cardio as well. I mean, we all talked about his college track running record. Like, he's on the track and field team. It's a good fight. It's a fun fight. You don't cut a guy off that kind of performance. But now he's on a 4-fight losing streak. So, like, what do you do with him? If he loses his next spot, he's on a 5-fight losing streak. Can't really market this guy anymore. 5-fight losing streak. Other people on the roster, hey, what the hell? At some point, something has to be done. And to lose to Gregorian, well, I mean, it's over for you. Like, you could now effectively go to Bellator and be a non-factor. We wouldn't have to worry about it. But they like Elkins, and I think this is them trying to get back in the win column. His 4-fight losing streak, mind you, is Alexander Volkanovski, who went the distance with, who's the current champion. Ricardo Lamas, former title contender, tough guy. Ryan Hall, absolute jiu-jitsu wizard. He won 3 rounds with Hall as well. Most guys, been getting subbed or completely just decimated by him. And Nate Landwehr, who I'm high up on, and it was just a really sloppy fight altogether. At least this represents an opportunity for Darren Elkins to pull in the win circle. Now, Eduardo Garagorri, like, how did he get in the UFC? See, this guy has got a very interesting story himself. he's just like a local ticket seller, right? Think about this. Comes to the UFC, has fought low-level guys, okay? Very low level, has a good little undefeated record. He's 12-0 when he debuts in the UFC. But that card took place in Uruguay, right? It was the UFC's
Against
first
Humberto
card.
Bandenay.
Right. It's the UFC's first card in Uruguay. So just like any time that they go to these South American countries, I need a guy from that area. If I go to Peru, I need a Peruvian. If I was to go to Bolivia, I would need a Bolivian. Yeah, I'm going to put Brazilians on the card. Yeah, I'm going to put guys other parts of South America on the card. But I need one guy from that area. So who do they draw up? The local 12-0 guy from Uruguay. Not only that, Paul, he's on the main card. In fact, Valentina Shevchenko is the headliner. Vicente Luque, Mike Perry, so good, is the co-main. And then it's Eduardo Grigori versus Humberto Bandenay. Crazy. Now, for those of you who don't know Humberto Bandenay, what would be considered at one time to be Paul's worst fighter in the UFC. He debuted in the UFC as a 4-1 underdog and actually won by head kick, and then proceeded to absolutely be a non-factor. His other 3 fights in the UFC released. He fights for Combate Americas now. Won a one-night tournament actually recently, but then lost his follow-up fight for the title against Rafael Diaz. Anyways, what I'm getting at is Humberto Bandenay, very low-level competition. But they bring in Bandenay to lose to the local. We got a local. We got to fire up the crowd. He's going to sell some tickets. People want at least one guy they can cheer for. We got him on the main card. And even though he's making his UFC debut, he's the favorite over Bandenay. And he goes out there and he beats Bandenay. Okay, fine. One thing important to note that I want to take away from that real quick is that Humberto Bandenay, a natural striker, took him down 4 times. His very next fight, Paul, well, that's where it gets a little more dicey. Now we don't owe him a favor. Now we're not in Uruguay. Now I don't need to give him a favorable matchup. So let's just give him somebody that in fact, Ricardo Ramos is good, but they give him a guy that's not top 20, not top 15, and he was not in it, man. He got taken down and submitted. He got taken down twice, in fact, both times relatively easy, gave up his back, caught in the rear naked choke in the first round, and now you have not seen him in 1 year, and he's drawing fucking Darren Elkins, a 30-fight UFC veteran who's fought Volkanovski 4 fights back, who's gone the distance with some of the best guys, who trains at a very what are you going to do? Submit him? Like, no, Hulk could do it in 3 rounds. Like, you're not submitting this guy. You're going to knock him out? It's just like, good luck, man. Nate Landwehr just threw absolutely everything at him and couldn't put him down. Like, what's your path here? Grind him? No, that's what he's going to do to you. Mm-hmm. And that's what I see happening. I think Elkins just puts a royal grind on this kid. Whether he takes him out inside the distance, maybe Elkins not really much of a finisher. He's more of that just grindy type. But I think he could get him in a Mirsad Bektic type situation where instead of losing the first 2 rounds, it's just, a lot of havoc in the first 2 and then maybe you grind him out. Now, with Landwehr, he had good spots over Nate Landwehr, but Landwehr is a class act, has good takedown defense, was fighting in M1 Global in championship fights, was the champion of M1 Global, fighting badass Russians in the mountains. Like, he's good. These guys are good. It's no disrespect. I know it's going to come off as disrespect. It's no disrespect to Eduardo Grigori, but he's in way over his head. Now, is he capable of winning? Sure, he's capable of winning. And we've seen these old spots where aging veterans like Darren Elkins just don't got it anymore. But I've seen aging Darren Elkins lose to good guys. I'm not going to write him off as doesn't got it anymore. Whereas Eduardo Garagorri, he's had the year off, but he's going to have to have made a good amount of improvements in that year off to be competitive with Darren Elkins. So sign me up for the damage. I think he gets back in the winning column.
Max Payne. Griffin takes on Ramiz Brahimaj. -145 Griffin, +125 Brahimaj. You got any hot takes on this one?
You know what? I don't know. I would never say hot take, but coming in, maybe say yesterday, I'm liking Max Griffin. I like the line for Max Griffin. Again, here's another guy in Griffin who's fought at the elite level, man. I think he's a 9-time UFC veteran. He's fought the likes of Colby Covington. He's fought the likes of Mike Perry, Thiago Alves, Zalimi Madayev, Cowboy Oliveira. But as much as I like, he's 5'11", he's rangy. He's got a really nice jab. You've seen the Perry fight. He can stay to the outside, jab away at you. You see in the Zalimi Madayev fight how much he's been working on his wrestling. And in fact, he took down Imadayev 6 times, takes down Alex Morono 4 times, took down Alex Oliveira, Cowboy, fake Brazilian Cowboy, twice his last time out. His wrestling's improving a lot. His striking's pretty okay. He's got okay ring IQ. His cardio pretty good. I think it checks out. We've seen him throw over 100 significant strikes, and not get totally zapped. But at the end of the day, Paul, here's a guy that's 3-6 in the UFC. And there's a reason why he's 3-6 in the UFC. Guys like Alex Morono can hustle him up and outstrike him. Guys like Oliveira can outmuscle him and get him down. Guys like Thiago Alves can get him to some deeper waters and fatigue him. Like, he's just not super well, like, he's well-rounded, but as far as like big spots goes, he doesn't necessarily tie it together all that well. The advantage that he has is he's a 9-time UFC veteran taking on Ramiz Brahimaj, who's effectively making his UFC debut. So experience is definitely in Griffin's factor.
Course, yeah.
As far as the striking goes, Brahimaj usually just tries to get these fights to the ground ASAP. So
Yeah,
honestly,
he's a
I do
submission
think
specialist.
yeah,
From
he's a
the
submission
looks of it.
specialist. He just wants to get the fight down as quick as he possibly can. He shows no knockouts on his record. He's never knocked out a single person. Just wants to get you down, give you that old-fashioned grind. But that is a viable path to victory over Max Griffin, a guy that's not exactly known for his wrestling defense, has been taken down by guys in the past. And if you do get taken down, could Brahimaj maybe submit him? Maybe. I don't think he submits him, but I think he could just take him down and win 2 of these rounds. The Morono fight and Alex Oliveira fight are close fights, but it shows you that when the fight's close and it's hanging in the balance and you got to go to that second gear, Max Griffin hasn't exactly been able to pull away in those spots. At 34 years old, I have no reason to believe that he's made the necessary improvements to really have that. With Brahimaj, he's a little bit more of a question mark because in his fights, he normally just goes in there and just shoots a double right off the get.
Yeah.
Tries to take you down and tries to give you a grind. He hasn't fought in over a year now. I think it's something like 18 months he's been on the sidelines. But that's dangerous when you're 27 years old and at a good gym like Forest MMA. He could have made improvements. Cardio doesn't seem to be an issue. And if he goes out there and just takes down Griffin in those first 2 rounds, holds him down those first 2 rounds, and Griffin is able to fight back in the third, Griffin not really known for his power as well. Like, again, he's mostly just stays to the outside and jabs. Like, if he doesn't knock out Brahimaj in the third after dropping 2, he's losing this decision. And I'm not completely sold that he's going to be able to stuff Brahimaj's takedowns early. And I don't want to bet against him, giving that, 9-time UFC veteran against UFC debutant. And I like what I've seen out of Griffin in certain spots. I'm not confident enough that he's going to tie it all together. And this is the kind of spot that screams like, you write Brahimaj off. He was supposed to debut against Sato, and he bailed out, and his cornerman had COVID, and he hasn't fought in 18 months, and he's fought lackluster competition. Both of his losses, Justin Patterson, multiple-time Bellator veteran, by the way, and Evan Cutts, fucking gangster out of Texas, got a win over BJ Penn's brother Reagan. They're not bad losses. 2 years ago, like, he's only 25 years old. Like, did he make those improvements? Because you haven't seen it, you write these guys off a little bit. Oh, I'll take Griffin. I'll put Griffin on a couple parlays at the bottom. But, like, that's where you get burned. So I mentioned some dogger pass spots so far, and this one kind of screams a little dogger pass. I think I'm just going to hit a pass altogether. But Brahimaj could be one of those guys you see at the way bottom of my, like, PRP-type parlays because he can juice up the parlay. And I honestly think he's got a legitimate chance at those odds.
That seems pretty fair to me. And finally, we've got Gustavo Lopez taking on your boy Anthony Birchak. No odds, no DraftKings pricing. This was supposed to be Gustavo Lopez versus Felipe Colares. That obviously got canceled due to Colares getting COVID-19. I mean, I feel like you from your Canadian MMA experience probably know more about Birchak than just about anybody. What's your he fought up here in
he was
West a bunch of times, didn't he?
Yeah. So he's a former Maximum Fighting champion. I remember they wouldn't let you keep the titles, so they gave him a ring, and I think that's what he still got to this day. Anthony Birchak is a former Arizona State University wrestler at ASU in Arizona. D1 All-American. He wrestled on the same team that featured John Moraga, featured CB Dollaway, featured Ryan Bader, and featured Cain Velasquez. He's right in that era of those guys. Here's the thing. Cain Velasquez is body shot to bits. He's not exactly hanging around anymore. He's pretty much done. CB Dollaway, his body is shot to bits. That elevator accident threw out what was left of his back. He's not exactly cutting it anymore. John Moraga is still hanging around. He's a flyweight, but he's lost a lot of speed, lost a lot of step. And Ryan Bader's the man over in Bellator, but whatever, those higher weight classes. What I'm illustrating is that, like, he's 34. He's the same age as those guys. It's impressive, but it should have been more impressive his first run in the UFC. And that's exactly it. I mean, Anthony Birchak is already a UFC veteran. After he left the MFC, came to the UFC, he let me down massively his first fight against Ian Entwistle. He was a minus 280 favorite. He got heel hooked in 1 minute and 4 seconds. Okay,
as people do against Entwistle, that is.
Entwistle is so one-dimensional with that leg lock attempt that it's just like, man, you maybe should have snuffed it out a bit better. And because he had such a better wrestling advantage, I honestly thought that he would just stuff the takedown, keep it standing. But Ian Entwistle just, like, Imanari rolls on the leg. And as soon as he did, like, Birchak tried to get out. I mean, he rolled a few times, but it was like, it was done. He got knocked out by Thomas Almeida. That was a top prospect at the time, whatever. And then they actually cut him off a win over Delano Lopez on a split. He wasn't looking good in the UFC. Striking, he left something to be desired. He doesn't wear damage particularly well. Like if you hit him, you stun him. And then the problem is with a fighter like that is he could be winning 3 minutes or 4 minutes of a close fight, but he'll get stung and he'll almost get frozen, not dropped. It doesn't stank you, like doesn't wobble, but it just like freezes him up. And then it just tells the judges from body language, like, oh, he's hurt. Oh, he's slowing down. And he loses. And after he left the UFC, he went to Japan. And, they matched him up fairly favorably in Japan. Kawaji's a tough fight. Otsuka and Jae-Hoon Moon, he should have walked all over them. But he didn't. He lost both of them by split decisions. You can argue that they were bad Japanese decisions. All the same, he's just in way too close and competitive fights with these guys. Since then, he's been released. He's been competing with Kombachi Americas. They've got him matched up bottom of the barrel. He does a little commentary for them because he's got UFC experience. I think he speaks Spanish. He's El Toro. They like Anthony Birchak and Kombachi. They match him up super soft. He's been mostly competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments. Hasn't really been fighting at a high level. And then, pow, we got a short notice replacement. He comes to the UFC. Lucky for him, Gustavo Lopez is a very winnable fight. Go out there, take this guy down, give him the grind. You're a better wrestler than him. You have a lot more experience than him. Striking is not bad. Here's where I'm drawing a problem. We don't have a line on it quite yet. I would imagine Birchak would be a slight favorite anyways. But Gustavo Lopez, you didn't have a ton to base him off of because he had fought low levels, again, in Kombachi Americas. But the Merab Dvalishvili fight, he give a good account of himself, man. He got absolutely dumped to the ground, just like any Dvalishvili opponent, but he worked his way back up. I think he gives up 13 takedowns to Merab Dvalishvili, where it's like, dude, he stuffed 5 of them because it was 18 attempts. As far as the stand-up
took that fight
goes,
on super, super short notice, too.
You took the fight on
Borg pulled out due to personal reasons, as Ray Borg does.
Yeah,
that was a catchweight 140, tough spot.
Well, see,
he got the decision against an absolute machine.
Well, that's the thing. It's just like you're going up to 140 to fight Merab Dvalishvili. It's a bad spot. It's a day's notice. You're going to get taken down. He doesn't land a ton of strikes, but he gets into a lull by the second and third round where he's got his hands really low because he just knows the takedown's coming. He's not quite fighting it, but he never once looks like he's got an ounce of quit. He's massively overmatched, but he has some heart. And that's one thing I like about him is he fights through. And I don't want to discredit Birchak. But that is actually my one issue with Birchak. It's Birchak's got the skills, but he faces a little bit of adversity and he'll slow down. He doesn't find that plan B. He doesn't, do anything to alter the path of the momentum of the fight. Whereas I feel like Gustavo Lopez on a full camp, because he's the one with the full camp now. He's supposed to fight Felipe Colares. If he's got a full camp, his cardio checks out, his punching power is actually pretty good. He's got some power in his hands, and that takedown defense, you learn a lot from wrestling Merab Dvalishvili. Short up a little bit, keep a little bit tighter, and Birchak ain't shooting 18 takedowns. If you do get taken down, you get back up, just like you did against him. You get back up, and you get right back to working behind your jab. If you do that, you will cut him up. You will bust him up. You will make him question himself a little bit. And because he's coming on short notice, I can see him slowing down a little bit. And I could see it being a slight nod toward Gustavo Lopez. Now, here's a problem with a fight like this. I can see both guys winning. So as much as I'm going to tell you right now, 50-50 fight, I'm leaning towards Gustavo Lopez. I really do need to see the price. Because if Gustavo Lopez is a minus 160, minus 150, minus 135, now I'm a little bit tempted on maybe Birchak takes him down. We know that the path to victory over Lopez is a suspect takedown defense. Birchak would have seen this guy in Kombachi Americas already, and maybe he goes and takes him down. But I don't have a price. I really got to see a price. If they match it up even money, I'm going to lean towards Gustavo Lopez. If they match up, if Gustavo Lopez has a nice little dog tag on him, it's a dog or pass for me. If Gustavo Lopez is the favorite, it's just going to be a straight pass for me. I don't even know that I love Birchak at dog money, unless it's the right price, but we just don't know the price.
We don't have a price.
If Pat was sitting there, I'd hear him yell in the background, price it yourself. And if I was pricing it myself, I think I'd have Birchak at minus 135, come back plus 115 on Lopez. And that makes a dog or pass. But again, it's not enough dog money for you. Interesting seeing how the odds makers have this one too.
Fair enough. All right, let's whip through DraftKings super quickly. Obviously, there's no price for Gustavo Lopez versus Anthony Birchak yet, but if it sounds like what you're saying, it's probably going to be it'll be interesting. They don't really have a slot open for usually it's there's not. Maybe they'll go 81-81. We'll see. Which people jump off of the board to? I mean, we both kind of like Glover Teixeira, $7,400. There's obviously, if he gets the fight to the ground, there's an opportunity for a submission in that spot, so that is good. Tanner Boser versus Arlovski. We were leaning towards Boser by decision. I feel like that's probably going to be pretty low scoring if we did it that way. Any spots that jump off the page as must plays. Obviously, our boy Alexander Romanov, $9,000. Like, I imagine everybody on earth is going to be on board. The guy likes to take you to the ground and pound on you. That's how you score the big points in the game of DraftKings MMA. Well, unless depending on who's scoring all of those significant strikes on the ground, I guess. I guess nothing gets caught. It depends on who, but yeah, let's not even go there. Any people really jump off the page. Obviously, Brett does a video as well. It comes out on Friday, has a little bit more information. He gives a few picks and be on your merry way. But yeah, Romanov is obviously going to be a pillar for me. I like Glover Teixeira, 7,400. 5-round fight, and obviously the opportunity for like a submission. If he's able to get the fight to the ground against Santos coming off of knee surgeries and all of that, that could be a really good spot as well. Maybe Darren Elkins, when he gets into full gear, can score pretty big too, especially if he starts landing some takedowns. Those are kind of guys that are jumping off the page to me. I feel like Ian Heinisch in that straight pick'em there. Ian Heinisch is going to be really, really popular, but do you foresee a finish in that fight?
Not necessarily. I think that Heinisch is more of a decision guy. Like, he's got the win over Jeremy Shart last time, but I see it as decision.
Probably not going to want to go to the ground all that much, and if it's just significant strikes, he's going to have to really land a lot of them against Brandon Allen. So maybe, I imagine at 7,800, because he's 7,800, he's going to be minus 110. I imagine the ownership will be super, super high on him. Interesting spot to get away from, I would argue, at least at this point in the week. Anybody jump off the page, Cheeto. We don't have to go through every single fight. We just did. And there's time.
No, yeah, and you know what, dude? You totally stole the words out of my mouth on a lot of the spots. But yeah, running down, you can't do wrong, I think, with any of the first three guys. I think Chikadze is live because he's got that. He shows low scoring, only averages 68 points. But if knockout's on the table for him here, he gets that knockout, he will pay out the 9,300. It looks risky, but I do see him actually paying out. Raoni Barcelos is more of a cash game play, even though he's got a big average on him. You look at that fight with Said Nurmagomedov, that's more of the indicator. Even though he gets 2 takedowns, 4 advances, 42 significant strikes, he only gets 73 points. 73 points at 9,100, not good. Not good for GPP. More of a cash game play there. Romanov, GPP, and a half. Boser, he could get the decision score, decent amount, but he could get a knockout. He could be live there. Thiago Santos, I'm not taking Thiago Santos personally, but obviously, he's got passive victory to score lots. Griffin, I wouldn't want any part of Griffin. I don't want any part of Allen. I'm going to fade Jan. Bavon Lewis, no part of him. Trevin Jaws, same thing. Don't want a part. Garagorri, don't want a part. I'm looking at those value guys. Outside of, we just talked about top 3 plays, all good plays. Where are we going to find some additional value? Where are we going to find some of that? In that high, mid-range, Darren Elkins. You nailed it, 100%. If Elkins goes out there and has his ways with the takedowns, that's how you're going to score points. But beyond that, this ain't the island, baby. This is Vegas. If he just lies on top and chips away, it'd just be like he'll land significant strikes. The Nate Landwehr fight, he landed 121 significant strikes to go with his takedown as well, right? Mm-hmm. And Nate Landwehr got much better takedown defense than Garagorri. So I think Elkins could score a lot. But you know what? He's 8,700. He's still a little bit. Well, okay, you know what? I'm looking at Claudia Gadelha as an option. 7,900. No, that seems lots. You look at her last fight against Angela Hill. She only scored 1 takedown against Angela Hill. Still managed to score 80 points in a victory over that fight with her significant strikes and 1 advance as well. Against Jan, she could have more than 1 significant strike, but she's only 7,900. She scored 80 points against Hill. If she was to score 80 points in a victory here, you would take her at 7,900. Ian Heinisch, 7,800. Yeah, keep this fight standing. Outpoint Allen. He's more of a decision guy. If he was more than 8,200, I'd be a little worried about him getting up to that. But for 7,800, not bad. Brahimaj, we talked about, he's a live dog. If he's able to get down Griffin, we all love scoring on takedowns. We all love scoring on ground transitions. Yeah. Brahimaj seems like a fairly aggressive guy. 18 months on the sideline, he could come out here and get gassed after 5 minutes. He could go out there and completely style on old man Griffin. Old man Griffin, 34. Just kidding. But you don't really know what you're getting out of Brahimaj. $7,700, he falls in that punt category because you could get something good.
Yeah, he's
and
a
then,
GPP flyer at that price with his style. But
yeah, and then Glover's the ultimate GPP flyer. He's $7,400. He's got 5 rounds to work with. He's got tons of back class. If he gets on top of him, he could pound him out. He could get a submission. He could just score on ground transitions. As far as at 41, is he gonna old man 34, old man 41? Like, yeah, Glover can go 5 rounds. Glover can push through. Glover has been in these spots. Like, there ain't no doubting Glover. There is just doubting anybody's ability to take a punch from Thiago Santos. So Glover's got to mind his P's and Q's early. But as far as 5 rounds to work with, takedown advantage, all-around grappling advantage, that BJJ black belt of his, if Eric Spicely's going to rear naked choke Thiago Santos, you do not want Glover Teixeira on your back. I see pass for Glover. I'm saying for $7,400, he's definitely worth a look. If you're the kind of guy to play multiple lineups, yeah, I think Glover ends up on a couple of those, especially because at $7,400, he allows you to afford absolutely what else if you want. If Glover's on your lineup, he comes through. Let's say Brahimaj is on your lineup, he comes through. Heinisch or Gadelha, you can afford anybody you want. There's a lot of money to be on the table, but you really got to get those key pieces on the bottom. And this week, I think there's at least 4 or 5 that have a legitimate shot.
All right, we're just about out of time, but before we go, hit him with the PRP. Mr. Saftic.
Okay, going with the PRP, and then, like the last couple of weeks, people will say, man, they're so favorite heavy. It's like, yeah, but one dog is hit in the last 2 events. So you just got to go with who you like. In this case, I'll start it off with a dog in Glover Teixeira. That's going to be dog number 1. We're going to go with Tanner Boser. Cody Gadelha is going to be dog number 2. Ian Heinisch is even money. Romanov, Chikadze, Bavon Lewis, Ramiz Brahimaj is going to be dog number 3. I don't have a price on Gustavo Lopez versus Birchak. I'm going to lean Gustavo Lopez, especially if I can get dog price on him. Rowdy Barcelos, big favorite. Obviously, Darren Elkins, big favorite. So we're looking at 3 straight-up underdogs. We'll see what Gustavo Lopez end up priced at, and a couple even money fights in Ian Heinisch and Bavon Lewis. So this is last week. You've seen all the fighters together. Like, it was like, oh man, if 9 guys hit, it plays 14-1. It was like 20-1. Like, this is going to be the kind of one, like, if you can hit some of these plays together, it's gonna pay big. So we got to get our safe picks. We got to get our greasy picks. But I'm excited to get after it, Paul.
You're live at what time Wednesday night here?
8 p.m. 8 p.m. we're doing Contender Series. So I know I got a lot of message asking for Contender Series picks. I feel like if I just tweet them out, who's going to tune into the show? So tune into the show. I give you some Contender Series picks.
Absolutely. Follow Cody on Twitter at CJ Saftic. Thanks for your time this week. And yeah, this show should be out by the time that starts. I don't know if anybody's going to get to the end of the show to find out that I just promoted it for you. But if you get to the end of this show, Cody's live right now on odds.com. So go check that out.
If you've made it this far in the show, I'll tell you, I got Jared Vanderaa, Luis Saldana, Ignacio Bahamontes, and then, the main event's a swing, but I'm going to go with Carlos Ulberg. So again, it's 4 favorites. I really feel the best about Ignacio and Jared Vanderaa. Both of them parlayed together. It's like minus 130. So because you've tuned in all the way to the end of the show and then are going to watch it on the release date and then cut it really close into these fights, you deserve some picks. So those are the picks for you.
There you go, coming from the man himself. All right, thanks to Cody Saftic for breaking down the fights for us. As always, thanks to Matt Best for all his sweet cuts behind the scenes there. For Matt and Cody, I'm Paul saying goodbye and good luck.
MMA experience! Experience!